What's up, Eagles Nation? What's going on, NFL world? How you doing, division rivals? This is Steven Hyder with Gate City Sports Channel, the sports channel where the cerebral NFL fan comes for about 10 minutes of daily content. What's up, guys? Once again, Steven Hyder, Gate City Sports Channel. If you're new to my channel, guys, if I can ask you to do me a huge, huge favor, please hit that subscribe button, guys. You have no clue how much that is appreciated by us content creators, and it honestly helps us grow as a channel. And I'm sorry, guys, but you may not realize this, but there's a lot of trade-offs to being a content creator, guys. We have to give up a lot of our time to do this stuff. And it just having that kind of support system, guys, it keeps us motivated to keep pushing this content out here. All right, y'all, to all my old G's, you already know what to do, guys. Hit that thumbs up button. That's what communicates with YouTube and presses the content out across the platform. All right, y'all, look, I want to talk about the secondary. If you guys haven't caught, this entire week I've been on nothing but the secondary. I want to continue that. And I want to take you guys a little bit into the mind of Gate City Sports Channel, where I'm going to break down a lot of advanced metric stuff. And I'm going to tell you straightforward who I think the Eagles should sign in free agency, judging by the advanced metrics on these players. I'm going to tell you who I think is a complete crapshoot on this Philadelphia Eagles roster and who I think might be worth salvaging and bringing back. And look, this is going to be probably a pretty interesting and deep conversation we're going to have today because we got to get into it, man. This secondary is not acceptable. This crap cannot go on another season. This has got to get fixed here and now this offseason. There's no more excuses for the secondary because we were just flat out bad in certain games. All right, y'all. Let's jump into today's content.
The bad news for the Eagles is when the veterans do arrive, there's not much help coming at cornerback.
Here we sit, ladies and gentlemen, late in January. Still searching for a cornerback coach, although we've had a couple of really good interviews and it looks like someone is going to get hired there very soon. But we only have 4 contributors from our team last year that are still under contract at the cornerback position. Those players, Rasul Douglas, our former third-round pick, right? Sidney Jones, former second-round pick. Crayvon LeBlanc, a former undrafted rookie free agent who, I'm not even going to knock the guy. He might be an undrafted rookie free agent, but the kid can play. And Devontae Maddox, a former third or fourth-round pick, guys. I want to say he was a fourth-round pick. You know, we just don't have a lot of certainty right now at this cornerback position. And then we have one player who's on a futures or reserve contract. Basically, what that means, guys, is he's signed for the minimum salary. I would dare to guess there's not too much of that money guaranteed, if any of it's guaranteed. And I highly doubt he's on a signing bonus. I mean, this is a guy you haven't committed a lot of, resources to, and that's Trevor Williams. And that's the state of the Philadelphia Eagles roster right now. But I will say this: having the state of the Philadelphia Eagles roster be this, craziness right now, does allow us to take a fresh and honest look at the production we've gotten out of our cornerbacks. Because if we're not going to really, I'm not going to focus on the inside. I'm not going to worry about Sidney Jones and Crayvon LeBlanc. I think these two guys can contribute no matter where we play them. And I got confidence in those young guys. However, when we're getting down to the 2 guys that are currently free agents, who have been our starters for the past 3 years or so, and Jalen Mills and essentially Ronald Darby, you got to compare it to the 2 guys we have under contract, which is Rasul Douglas and Sidney Jones. And I'm here to tell you, I honestly think the young kids outperformed them last year. When you look at the advanced analytics behind everything, they played better. That's what we're going to talk about today, guys. I'm going to talk about what is going on this roster and what are the options to improve it. And I'll tell you what, I'll even close out by telling you who I think is the one guy we can sign and immediately upgrades. I'll give you a target. Not that I think we're going to sign this individual, but I think it's the person you can target and we'll give you an immediate upgrade. All right, y'all. Let's jump into today's topic. Well, let's start with Ronald Darby, guys. Huge addition that 2017 year. We went out and traded for him. It was one of the ways that we were able to shore up our secondary in 2017. And look, this is a kid that at one point in time was the Pro Football Focus's Defensive Rookie of the Year. He just didn't develop. He didn't develop, guys. There's something about Ronald Darby and his inability to turn and locate the football in man press coverage that is just appalling. He has no ball skills at all. In addition to that, he's just horrible with taking angles to tackle. He's not very good at it. I mean, a lot of corners aren't very good at tackling, but Ronald Darby is particularly bad at it. And I got to be honest, out of everyone they broke down, he had the worst numbers, and he was our worst corner, and it was by a very wide margin. So, Let's get into some of the nitty-gritty about Ronald Darby. To begin with, his snap share. So the percentage of times he was on the field for the Philadelphia Eagles equaled about 68.7%. So about 68% of snaps. Let's keep in mind he missed games. Targets allowed. He allowed 75 targets on the year, which works out to be about 6.8 or roughly 7 targets per game. Now, your targets, like, if an offense is on the field more than other offenses are against your defense, like that can skew it if you're just looking at the target, allowed. So what you want to look for is the target rate. That gives you a better understanding. He was targeted 27.7% of the time. 28% of the time the quarterback was looking to throw his way. It's not good, guys. It's not good at all. You look at his routes defended. He defended 271 routes on the season. That works out to about 24.6 a game. Round that up, you get about 25 routes a game he defended. Okay, and his average target distance, so the average, distance they were throwing the ball at him was 12.7 yards. They were taking shots at him, clearly. All right, now let's take a look and let's just see some of his actual, production. All right. If we look at his production, let's look at his receptions allowed. He allowed 52 receptions on the year, which works out to about 4.7 a game or roughly 5 a game. He gave up on those 52 receptions 802 yards. That's big, guys. It's about 72 and a half yards a game. That's a big figure, guys. Now, his yards per reception, so if you count in the receptions, kind of divide that up by the amount of total targets, that averaged out to about 15.4 yards per target. They were definitely taking deep shots on him. So when people caught the ball on him, they caught it deep. He did break up 9 passes. He has 9 breakups. He had 7 touchdowns allowed on the season, but he did pick the ball off 3 times. The thing about Ronald Darby is in his own system, he's got ball hawking skills. In a man system, you just can't play man. I don't think, don't get me wrong, cover 3 is his own system, but it has a built-in kind of weird man concept to it on that third of the field. I don't think Ronald Darby is the right player for that particular system. So his target separation. So this is the time that elapses. I'm sorry, not the time that elapses, but the distance that elapses from the time the ball kind of comes in to be caught and where that separation is between receiver and defensive back. He had 0.82, which was 11th best in the league. So people weren't running by him. That wasn't the problem. He's got speed, but he just couldn't get his body in position to stop the play. Let's keep going, guys. His burn rate. His burn rate was 4%. It's not exactly great, guys. That's about 72 on, so he was pretty high up there. So when they say 72, that means like he had the 72 worst rating. You take 32 and multiply that by 2 because there's 2 corners, generally speaking, on every team on outside. 64. Count in the slots. I mean, he's down below the medium. He's down below that middle. It's not good. His catch rate allowed was 69.3, so 69% of the time the ball was thrown at him, the ball was caught. Also not very good, guys. The passer rating he allowed was a whopping 126.4. That's really not good, guys. And to make matters worse, his coverage rating was a negative 23.8. So your coverage rating is basically a advanced metric system to where they kind of take like the frequency that you're targeted, and then they use things such as like total passes or total targets that are coming at you, and they factor in things like how many times you break the ball off, how many times you intercept the ball to give you a score. When you're in the negative, it's not good. When you're in a negative 23.8, it means you were horrible that season. So Ronald Darby, it was a rough year for Ronald Darby, guys. All right, guys, let's transition. Let's look at our second free agent from the secondary. It's just Jalen Mills. So to start with, his snap share, 73.1%. His targets allowed were 60, or roughly 6.7 a game, so about 7 a game. His target rate was 25.1%. His routes defended was 239, or roughly 26.6 a game, so it's about, rounded up 27 a game. And his average target distribution, I'm sorry, his average target distance, not distribution, was 14.7. These aren't great numbers. I'm just going to tell you. All right, receptions allowed, 34, or roughly 3.8 a game, so 4 a game. Yards, 554, works out to be about 61.6 a game, so 62 yards a game. His yards per reception, so the yards they got per reception if you did it on an average basis, 16.3. When Jalen Mills got beat, he got beat. His pass breakups were 4. His touchdowns allowed were 3. And he did have, they accounted for 1 interception. Guys, sometimes when they do the pass breakups and like the touchdowns allowed, I do have some differences with them. And this is from a website. It's a scouting website, an analytics website called playerprofile.com. But I do think that sometimes they don't understand the nuance of like coverage scheme. So like you can confuse a guy on, like, hey, the guy that he was initially on broke for that touchdown, but they don't understand who had the responsibility deep in the zone. And I do think there are small nuanced things like that that kind of get missed in this. All right, so his target separation was 1.25. People were separating from him. 1.25 is not horrible. It's not good either. He's at the bottom end of his outside corners. Not the worst. Certainly nowhere near the best. All right, his burn rate was 1.7%. His catch rate allowed was 56.7%, which, believe it or not, that's actually not bad at all. It's weird because when he was getting beat, but the actual rate at which he was giving up catches was top 20 in the league. They ranked him out as number 17 in the league. That's pretty impressive, actually. However, the passer rating against him was 110, which is a little above the middle of the pack. They ranked him 47th in the league with that. Ideally, you'd like to see a little better than 110 passer rating against your corners, but certainly nowhere near as bad as what we had with Ronald Darby. And his efficiency score was a positive. So he had a plus 12.9, which ranked him at about 26th in the league. So not horrible there. He had a fairly decent season when he played. Now, I will say this. His target separation is a little scary. And the fact that he was giving up 16.3 yards per reception and giving up 110 quarterback rating, it's, not the best, but I'll say this. I don't feel as bad about Jalen Mills's, advanced analytics on him as I did about Ronald Darby. I mean, Ronald Darby was just burnt toast. I mean, clearly got to upgrade over Ronald Darby. It's just not going to work out. Jalen Mills, I'd still like an upgrade over, guys, because I'm going to get into that right now. Because if you look at these two younger guys we have behind these two, they played better. And we took them out during the playoff game. I thought Rasul Douglas and Sidney Jones had a really good Week 17 game. And we get to the playoff game and they get pulled out. They don't really play it at all. And it boggles my mind, guys. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. I think I'm going to break this video up into 3 parts, guys, just because this video is already running a little long. And I want to make sure I'm covering all this information adequately for you guys, but still keeping it to a respectable time distance here. So I covered the 2 corners that we had who have played significant minutes on our football team who are free agents, okay? Now I want to go into the one addition we've already made this season, which is we signed Trevor Williams to a futures contract. And Trevor Williams is a very interesting and unique, football player. I mean, he's really hard to categorize what we think about this future here with the Eagles. I don't think that we're married to this kid in any way. So to begin with, this kid's from Baltimore, Maryland. He played college football at Penn State, and he was an undrafted rookie free agent in 2016. He ended up signing on with the San Diego Chargers at that time, before they were to Los Angeles. And he makes it through to the final roster cutdowns, gets cut, waived, basically, then placed on their practice squad. He gets caught up of October of 2016. He's got a very much like a Cravon LeBlanc type, story to him. So in 2017, his second season, he was the 3rd cornerback coming off of the Chargers bench until Jason Verrett went down with an injury. And at the end of 2017, this kid was graded out as the 17th highest graded coverage corner by Pro Football Focus. He had 13 passes defense that season and 2 interceptions. Now, the athleticism of this kid. At his pro day, I think they timed him at like a 4.44 or 4.45 40. But generally speaking, professional scouts will add about a tenth of a second or so to that time because when you're doing it by hand at pro days, it's always a little off. So they always kind of add to it a bit. So I think they officially clocked him in at 4.49. He ran a 3-cone drill in 6.80 seconds. His vertical jump was 35.5, and his broad jump was 10 feet and 5 inches. He's fast, but he's not the fastest player that's out there. He's certainly faster than a lot of the guys we're running out there, though. He's built similar to Ronald Darby, but he's not as athletic. Trevor Williams is 5'11", 191 pounds. Ronald Darby's 5'11", 193. Ronald Darby runs a 4.38 40. This kid runs about a 4.49. Like, there's some kind of comparisons there, but I do think Darby's the more athletically gifted of the two. All right, with that said, guys, I'm going to get into some of the numbers here. So let's get into his snap share. In 2018, he was in for 59.9% of the San Diego Chargers plays. He was targeted 52 times, or roughly 4.7 attempts per game, so rounded up to 5 attempts a game. And his target rate was 25.9%, roughly on par with what our corners basically are going through. He's in between Jalen Mills' target rate and Ronald Darby's target rate. He defended 201 routes, so roughly about 18.3, so 18 routes per game. He allowed 38 receptions, or about 3.5 per game. He gave up 505 yards, or roughly 45.9, so 46 yards a game. And the average reception, the average yards per reception, I should say, was 13.3. He broke up one pass, gave up 3 touchdowns. He didn't have any interceptions. This is all from 2018, guys. He really didn't log any playing time at all in 2019. But the stat that impresses me the most, guys, his target separation was 0.65. This guy is very sticky when it comes to receivers. He sticks to them. That's a very impressive number to me. But there are some major concerns with this kid. Now, his burn rate was a 0, which is good. Means he's not getting beat, which that 0.65 would tend to lead you to believe he's definitely not getting burned. His catch rate allowance is 73.1. So he's not getting burnt. He's not, he's sticking to the receivers, but if you're giving up if they're catching 73% of the passes on you, that would tell me with no interceptions, only one pass breakup, he's not playing the ball very well in the air. So his passer rating allowed is 122.7. That concerns me. No surprise, his coverage rating is a negative 31.5. So guys, if you look at the positives here, right? He defended, 201 routes. I was only targeted 52 times. Only gave up 38 receptions for 500 yards. But, and his target separation was 0.65. Those are phenomenal numbers there. But on the flip side, he only broke up one pass. He had no interceptions. His catch rate allowance was 73%, which is just absurd. His passer rating allowed was 122.7, which is ridiculous. And his coverage rating is a negative 31.5. Guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how serious I take this individual as a candidate to replace anybody. I think he's got some talent. I'm not going to say he won't make the roster. But I certainly think these scouts are looking at these numbers and they realize that this football team needs to keep adding talent at the cornerback position. I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that Trevor Williams is like, oh, this guy is going to definitely come in and be a 3 or a 2. He's going to. Sorry. When I get to the younger guys tomorrow that we already have on the roster, they're playing better than this. All right, y'all. Let me know your thoughts real quick. I want to know your thoughts on Trevor Williams. What do you guys think about Trevor Williams? Guys, I know this is a new format here. I'm trying some things out. Just bear with me as I feel out and I try to improve the channel a little bit, guys. So, in addition to the Trevor Williams question, another question I would like to ask y'all before I jump off of here, okay? I want to ask y'all this question. and tell me in the comments below. Would you sign back Ronald Darby or Jalen Mills? And if you would sign them back, where are you putting them on the football team? What position? What's going to be their role? How much money would you pay these guys? Like, I think we just really need to revamp this defensive backfield, guys. All right, y'all. Tomorrow's video, we'll go over the young guys. I'm going to go over Sidney Jones. I'm going to go over Rasul Douglas. Okay. I'm going to talk about them. I'm going to give you guys some comparisons. I'm going to let you know what I think about their long-term prospects on this football team. Then I'm going to flip it over the following day to those free agents that I think, I'll probably give you 3 or 4 of them that I think are going to be very good football players. And I'm going to compare them and tell you what I think in terms of their value, their money, where they fit, who I think is the actual better football player if you look at the film and the analytics of everything. And I'll give you guys insight to that. All right, y'all. I'm going to hop off here, guys. I'm sorry for the length of this video. I'll try to make tomorrow's just slightly shorter. It's still going to be somewhat longer, but I'll make it a little shorter than this one was. And, oh, yeah, what time is it? We go E-A-G-L-E-S. All right, y'all. Let's go, Eagles.